Hello and welcome to today's live stream. I'm really excited about today's show. We are going to be having a conversation about how can you start an African fashion business. I'm just waiting for my guest, Jacqueline Shaw, to join the live stream so that we can have this conversation. So today, special guest is the founder of Africa Fashion Guide, Jacqueline Shaw. She has been at the forefront of African fashion for the last 10 years, more than 10 years, actually. And I thought she would be a great person to have a conversation with today, especially for those of you who are looking to venture into the fashion industry and you're looking to do something that is in the African fashion landscape. Over the last few years, we've seen how African fashion has grown around the world and how we see there's fashion weeks happening everywhere. You know, there's an African Fashion Week Toronto, there's African Fashion Week in New York, there's African Fashion Week throughout parts of Europe and London and in Los Angeles. So we definitely know it is something that is a huge, huge deal for a lot of people. So today we have Jacqueline Shaw. Let me do a quick introduction. Hello, Jacqueline.
Hello, hello, hello. How is everyone?
Good, good, good. So I'm just going to do a quick overview about who you are. I was just talking about how you're the founder of Africa Fashion Guide, and you've been a pioneer in the concept of the fashion made in Africa. And this is over a decade that you've been doing this, but you've been in the fashion industry much longer. Throughout Jacqueline's career, she has worked for global brands like Puma, Fila, Chili Pepper, Russell Athletic, Ocean Pacific, and so much more. She wrote the book Fashion Africa, which was published in 2011. And she's also helped so many people in sourcing their brand for African fashion throughout the continent of Africa. Now, I first met her in 2012 at Ghana Fashion and Design Week, when I was the international liaison for the event, as well as I emceed some of the runway shows. And when I met her, I knew that she was definitely such a dynamic woman, very focused on doing things for the African fashion space. And I've kept following her through the years. And I'm really excited that she's been able to take some time out today to chat about doing fashion in Africa. I want to say thank you for those of you who've joined the live stream. As you come on, if you have any questions or comments, please do put them in the comment section, and we will make sure to address all of your comments and questions as they come in. So Jacqueline, I did a quick introduction about you, but I'm going to let you go into more detail about what you do, how long you've been doing it, how you got into it, so that you can, get a little bit more detail in than I did.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, so again, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you, Ivy. You are amazing. I'm so glad that we connected also years ago. So yeah, my background is working in fashion. I've got a background as a designer. That's my career, my profession. And around 10 years ago, I decided to undertake a master's in ethical fashion and to focus on Africa's supply chain, looking at, from the cotton field, from crop to cloth, from field to fashion, if you want to give it the alliterations there. But I wanted to focus on the full supply chain of Africa's textile industry, and to do that in a way that was informative. Plus, I decided to, because I'm a creative, I decided to launch a book, Fashion Africa, and I also decided to host a conference, which was bringing together the actors from those two areas, the ethical fashion scene and the African fashion scene as well, and talking about what's going on, how we can, work together and create amazing product and get this to market. Now my company, Africa Fashion Guide, has evolved in a beautiful way that is focused on sourcing and manufacturing. And so I've become like a sourcing agent, and the company is our agency for those who want to start fashion business in Africa. So we are your go-to agency to help you to get started up and to connect you to the makers as well.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned that you have a master's in ethical fashion.
Yes, yes, yes. So I've got a master's in ethical fashion, and I went back to get a master's in social research because I always love the research side of things as well. So that's really what the ethical fashion one is really what stemmed my business. I was sponsored by Puma, who I was working for, who had a big kind of remit, no, like a focus towards Africa and towards sustainability. And they decided that yes, I was an ambassador for their sustainability, and they decided that yes, they were going to be supporting my masters, which was, it was a blessing, and it literally has evolved into what is now an offline and online platform. We hold sourcing trips, we do trips to African countries, we do conferences, do visiting lecturing, do business coaching, do consulting, and just spread the message around the whole concept and the whole business of fashion, doing fashion business in Africa.
Now, when it comes to the fashion industry, there's a lot of people who reached out to me and said they want to do a fashion business. They don't know how to get started. They specifically want to focus on Africa, but they don't know if there's something that's different about Africa than what the mainstream fashion industry is. If there's something in particular that people need to consider when they're starting out. But before I get you to dive into that, I want to quickly welcome those who are joining, because we have people who have been joining the live stream as we've been going along. Welcome. We're talking about how you can start your own African fashion business. Jacqueline Shaw is the founder of Africa Fashion Guide, and she is an expert in all things sourcing for Africa. If you haven't been following her or you don't know about her, follow her at Africa Fashion Guide. She's definitely an expert in this area, and subscribe to her YouTube channel. Give her some growth there so that, more people around the world can learn about what she is doing. So I'll put it on the screen here. Africa Fashion Guide is the Instagram page you can follow. Website is africafashionguide.com to give her a follow. So before we dive more into what I was mentioning earlier, you did say that you wrote a book. That book is Fashion Africa, and it is available on Amazon for those of you who are interested. I've just put it on the screen here, Fashion Africa by Jacqueline Shaw. It is, some people will call it a coffee table book, but I think that it's more than a coffee table book. So can you tell us more about this book and what people will get out of it if they buy it?
Okay, so this book is like a go-to. It's something that was kind of, how can I put it now? It's a pioneering book. It was part of what was going on in the whole aspect of African fashion. It was showcasing the change of what was going on. It interviews people from, so you've got like designers like who have been featured in the recent Coming to America movie, like Loza Maliomba and Laduma of Makosa. And has these designers, it interviews them, and it showcases images from their collections. Plus I featured illustrators as well in that, but I wanted to give a book that was something that I would cherish and love, something that I didn't see existed, and I wanted to create something that would concrete itself in history, that would be a legacy of its own. And since then I've seen quite a few new books coming on the market now about African fashion, contemporary African fashion, the business of African fashion, but I never saw that before. So it definitely is a pioneering book, and something that you can go back to, keep showcase to your children so they can see a different side of what the world may show to you as Africa and African fashion. So it's a really important book that fashion schools are even holding now in their libraries as well, like London College of Fashion and so forth. So
yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, fashion schools are holding it now. Let me put it on the screen again for those of you who may be interested. Fashion Africa is the book written by Jacqueline Shaw. It is available on Amazon, so you can pick it up there in hardcover as well as in paperback. Now, in the comments, I had somebody who asked where you're from. Special guest is from. Someone answered that you are British Jamaican, but I'll let you answer the question.
I love this question. I love it so much because I do get asked it all the time, and I do have a little mini story around that. Hopefully,
okay,
won't be a long one. So mini story. So when I started my business, yes, so I am British born of parents who are Jamaican. I'm first generation British born, and when I started my whole business, what made me decide to do it was because my grandfather, he had died. And he was from a community of people called the Maroon tribes in Jamaica, and they're in Haiti and places like that. So they were enslaved Africans brought to the Caribbean. And a group of them decided that, we don't want to be slaves. We're not going to be slaves. We're going to fight the British and fight the Spanish. And they, many of them lived in like the mountains of Jamaica, if you know the Blue Mountains. Many of them lived in the mountains of Jamaica, and they were seen as warriors. So if you've heard of Queen Nana of the Maroons and Kojo and my brother Kojo and Kofi, they were very well known. And my grandfather's lineage comes from that. And that made me decide that I want to kind of explore Africa from a different perspective, get out there. My first Black African trip, I guess, or country trip was to Ghana, because I'd been to Morocco before, like the northern countries, but I'd never been to anywhere below that. So the Ghana was my first trip in 2009, sorry. And then I started my master's and decided to start a fashion business of my own, and which was actually a clothing label made in Ghana and made in Kenya. And then Africa Fashion Guide was launched, and the rest is history. Thank you, Kofi. Thank you for your comments.
I think the internet was breaking up a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hopefully you got the last bit, that because of what happened, because of looking at the heritage from my grandfather and what it meant to me, I decided to travel out to Africa after his death, and went to Ghana and started a fashion label in Ghana and Kenya. And then I decided to launch my business with my master's that I went on to do straight after. So it was all very well connected, very well connected.
Great, great. Thank you for that answer. So now, African fashion. It is something that has had a lot of conversation. I was saying before you came on about how all over the world we're seeing there'll be an Africa Fashion Week in London, Africa Fashion Week in New York, in LA, Toronto. We see it happening, Paris. It's happening all over the world. So people are having a increased interest in African fashion. And then as well across the continent, more countries are showcasing a lot of their designers. And because of social media, people have become influencers in showing African fashion. So we have a huge market potential. But then some people might feel like it's saturated already. So what do you suggest for somebody at the first point of, I want to start a fashion business in African fashion? What's the first thing they should be considering?
I always say to so when I coach my community, I say to them, like, why? What's the point? Because you can be a British doing fashion in England. You could be, in the US doing it. Why do you want to do something that is African focused? And I say that not to put them off, but to make sure that they actually got the right reasons. Because someone may be, it's because I'm where I'm from. Oh, it's because it's hot right now, it's trending. When you get into this kind of business, you have to be so committed. The worst thing you can do is to go in, get started, and then realize how tough it is to do fashion as a business and then leave. So you want to do it, know what is your why, decide, know that it's a commitment. I put a post on my personal Instagram that making in Africa is a decision and a commitment. It's not something you just go into and then decide to leave very shortly. You have to decide to do that and commit. Now, if you got a solid reason, like for me, it was all about, first of all, changing the perceptions and the narrative around what people thought about Africa through the medium of fashion and the vehicle of fashion. Now, it's evolved more to bring in trade to Africa using the vehicle of fashion. So I've got a very strong why. Okay. So once you decided on that, then the next steps is you need to go out there. I say definitely within the first 18 months, you need to go out there. There's lots of elements around, supply chains and, design decisions that you're going to create, and, getting a good network. That's really going to help you. That's why when I went out to Ghana, I made connections. When I went to Kenya, I travel to Africa every year. I go to multiple countries, aside from last year, but I go to multiple countries and I meet with people and make connections. Through that, I can now build my business. If I want to start a new brand, I can do it like that. I can help people to do it because of the connections. Working with Africa is really, and I say Africa collectively, And I can say in regards to the amount of countries I've been to, but working with African countries and African people, you need to have a relationship. Don't just come in, have a relationship with people, and then you can build upon that. That's going to be really key. So get out there as soon as you can and start building those networks with all different levels: makers, manufacturers, governments, academics, etc. Media too, that'll be good. I don't know if Ivy has got paused or if that's me, but I guess whilst she's coming back, if anyone has any questions, I can answer that. They're already as educated after willing to change narrative. Yeah, samples of our time. Awesome. Early morning beauty. Good morning, good morning. We caught your full description of where you are from. Oh, she's back. Awesome.
Yes, I am back. My apologies.
No worries. I'm talking about some of the questions. That's good.
Okay, great, great. So I wanted you to talk about what you do with respect to coaching, because I know that you coach people on starting their business, and somebody may be interested in hiring you to coach them when they get started. What is the process of what you do to help people to get started?
Awesome. Yeah, so first of all, if it's something you want to do, I have different ways of working with me. Generally, it's a one-to-one where we sit and work together for 3 to 6 months to start, build, grow, and launch a business from scratch. So you can reach out to me on Instagram or so forth, or to get in touch with me about that. I also have a membership community called The Family, the Fashion Africa Membership Club, and we call it The Family. And yeah, and with that, it's a community of us. For those who may just want to have a little taster, come in, they've got maybe a smaller budget, you can come and do that and join that community where we meet up every week. And I'll take you through what I call my 6-step roadmap, which is based on it's an acronym for Africa. So each of the letters stand for a different element, like F for finance and C for country selection, for example. And it takes you through the steps of getting started. So I literally will work you through the concept, from concept to creation to the full creation or ideation of your business, to get you to the point of getting your sampling. And you get connections to manufacturers, to makers, artisans, whatever you may need. If it's clothing, if it's homeware, which is very popular right now, if it's accessories, you can get the connections that you need to that. And I'll be there as your coach. I say, your coach in your corner to help you along your journey. So it's a really exciting time now to get started in African fashion, and the business opportunities are endless. It's not just design you can do. There's so many you can do.
So when you have, so for people who don't know, Jacqueline Shaw also has these sourcing trips.
Yes.
So she has these sourcing trips because part of her Made in Africa agenda is not just about starting a brand and using African fabrics, but it's also about knowing where to source, knowing where you can work with local people in the community, where you can find people who are, hand making textiles, people who may be making beads by hand, and actually going to the source rather than trying to go through a third party. Like somebody might buy a wax print from a manufacturer in China and they don't know who did it, but you're trying to get people to get on the ground and know exactly where to go. Tell me about these sourcing trips, and if someone's interested in getting into one of these sourcing trips, how can they do that? And if they're not able to, is it something that they can learn remotely? Especially now with our pandemic times, a lot of people are not traveling like they used to. They may want to learn remotely.
Absolutely. So yeah, the sourcing trips are a really good way to connect. Somebody did ask, how do you avoid being hustled? And that kind of links to this, because if you're going on a trip with somebody who's been there, so like I said, I'm not taking you to meet just any Tom, Dick, or Harry, or Harriet. I'm taking you to meet people that I've actually worked with myself, who I've visited or been highly recommended through government officials. These are people that you can go and work with directly from the trips, okay? So the trips we do, for example, we've done Ghana, we've done Kenya, we've planned to do Nigeria and Ivory Coast last year, but they had to be cancelled for obvious reasons. So you would make sure that you would meet with all the different type of manufacturers from small scale to large scale, factories, garment factories. You meet with artisans as well, but you can do direct business with them. And that's the idea, is that you'll meet the maker, meet your manufacturer. So that's what the focus of them are. And if you can't, also the name of the group is called the Fashion Africa Membership Club, or the family. It's part of the Fashion Africa Business Academy.com. You can go there to check that out. Fashion Africa Business Academy.com, where all my programs and coaching and everything is on there. If you can't go to the trips because of what's happening, we were planning to get back to Ghana this year, hopefully in October. We're just seeing how things pan out over the next couple of months. But plan to go back in October, so it'd be good to see you there, Ivy, as well, and maybe we can arrange something. But if you can't do that, the Africa Fashion Guide has a sourcing platform that will be live, God willing, in April. For those watching this on replay, hopefully April will be the time it should be live then. And that is called the Fashion Africa Trade Expo, or the FATE. And all of our programs start with Fashion Africa because that's our trademark company, Fashion Africa Limited. So you can go to fashionafricatradeexpo.com, and that is a B2B marketplace connecting the buyers with the makers, the designers with the artisans, the manufacturers, etc. So that is like your online sourcing kind of portal. So that is coming out very soon. I'm really, really excited about that, because more people can connect, and it's all about trade. So let's do this.
That's good. That's really good. I'm glad to hear that you have something planned as far as virtually, especially because we really are uncertain with how things are going to be, and people don't know if they want to travel or if they can travel. So it's good to know that you are doing that. Let me go to the comments here. See, are you in Ghana? That is where I visit when I come to. Rochelle, I am in Ghana, but Jacqueline is in the UK right now. Correct?
Yes, I am. I don't know if that was, who that was referred to, but yeah, I'm in the UK. So I'm UK born and raised, but I've lived in different countries, but back here in the UK right now.
Okay.
And that comment about making sure African fashion benefits Africans, ownership is very important. It's very interesting. I don't know if you mind me just adding, Ivy, but
go ahead.
Was on Clubhouse yesterday, as you do, and on Clubhouse there was a discussion about cultural appropriation. And for me, I was saying the exact same thing, that it is about ownership. I think it is, it's a lot about ownership and having it, benefit the people. And a few African countries are doing some things, like the Maasai has some legal rights over what they're doing, and the same with the Adinkras and with Kente and so forth. And this is a major issue of people like copying and so forth. So my whole idea is that connecting you with the makers is then you bringing trade to Africa, is keeping the money in the continent. It's not exporting it in the raw form. Like a lot of African cotton, for example, is exported, and then it is processed elsewhere, and then many of the times it's shipped back to Africa as a finished product. What we want to say, let's have the fabrics made from the local cotton, the local materials, just like the Bolgatanga baskets, for example, and you're using the local raffia, sisa, elephant grass, whatever it may be, and you're using that to make the baskets, and then you're exporting the finished goods, and a whole supply chain has been done locally in that country. And that's what I'm all about. And I think that's how you can keep ownership to the African people and have it benefit people as well. So I'm all about that.
Great. So what are the questions? I want to kind of go back to the comment where they said, how do you avoid being hustled? What are some of the questions that somebody should ask? Like, let's say somebody gets on a flight, they go to Ethiopia, they want to go find out about the textiles. And if they're not with someone like you, they're doing it on their own. What are the key questions that they should be asking to avoid, getting hustled, or to avoid not being given authentic product or authenticity? So what would you tell people they should be asking?
Okay, well, first of all, a bit of a caveat. I got hustled when I first started. And I would, this is somebody who knows fashion industry, and I would know why I got hustled. I didn't do my research. I went out and I got recommended people by friends of friends even. So it was a friend's auntie's friend who was making something for me. And I got hustled. I got the police involved, which nothing's really going to happen about it's not a serious topic for the police to be dealing with. But that's the exact point. Going with friends of friends, people who don't even know the industry, and they're connecting with people, you're opening yourself up for problems. You need to vet your suppliers. What I say to my customers and my clients: vet your suppliers. Ask them specific questions. Going to visit their manufacturing hubs, seeing how things are being made, who's making it, how people are being treated. You can just tell some things just through the eyes. You can tell if something's wrong. If you intuition, okay, sometimes, and sometimes it's blatantly in your face. But particular questions you can ask are things like, who did you last manufacture for? Who do you do shipping for? What's your MOQ, your minimum order quantity? What's your lead time? Asking them questions that are specifically fashion questions will let you know if they know the answers, that then they know how the industry works. Okay, and maybe you're working with artisans. You can still ask specific questions. You can go and check them out to make sure that the environment is conducive for you to do the product, and they are able to do the sales transactions, to do the shipping. Ask them who they ship with. What's their process for that? What's their process of receiving the money? They need to have this all set up. And then I would test out with a small thing, and then go into do something bigger as well. But again, get recommendations from people who have been there, who have done it, government officials as well. There's quite a lot of groups in different countries, associations and so forth, trade ministers who I take people to meet when I do our trips. Just so you know, you feel a bit more sure that you're not just working with what I call the one tailor by the roadside, where you don't know where they live or what they're doing. You're just trying out because you can see someone with a sewing machine. Yes, work with them, but in a different way. You have to vet your suppliers, validate them.
So with respect to somebody who may not be going in person, they should ask those kind of questions on the phone as well. Is there anything else they should be asking? Because I know when you have interactions in person, it's always a little bit different than when you're calling people on the phone or when you're sending an email. Are there any other things that they should be looking at when they're not there physically in person?
I would I'd want to see pictures of the process. I would want to see people they've worked with and be able to contact those people and ask to see their product, their finished product. I tend to still just try people out. So even if I'm recommending someone to you that I haven't met, I would, first of all, I'm not even going to recommend them until I have gone through the process. So you could say I'm taking a little bit of risk by ordering products and seeing how that process will work with them and their understanding. I remember there was a manufacturer in Nigeria who really, really, really wanted to work with me, really, really, really wanted me to give her access to other buyers. And I was very strict with no, because when I asked the simplest of questions to do with the processes, to do with, how they make things, how they work, she couldn't answer those questions with things she should know. And that gave me red flags. I said, I'm not sure about this one. Okay. And they were doing they weren't artisans, they would do clothing manufacturing, and they couldn't ask the basic questions. Okay. So yeah, try to get some feedback from others, testimonials, and get evidence for yourself so you can feel more assured if you can't get out.
Okay. All right. I want to welcome those who are joining the live stream. We are in the middle of talking to Jacqueline Shaw. She is the founder of Africa Fashion Guide, and we're talking about how to start your own African fashion business. She is an expert in this industry for over a decade for African fashion and much longer in the fashion industry in general. She knows what she's talking about, and she's published a book. So it's really, really a great conversation we're having today. So those of you who are here, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. We'll do our best to answer. Now, the next question I have for you, Jacqueline, is which countries in Africa do you find are the best to do business with? Because there's 54 countries, they all have their own way of doing things. Some might be easier than others. Which ones do you recommend are usually the easiest to work with when you're starting your business?
Okay. This is as much as ask me which is my favorite African country. Okay, so for the fashion industry, let's talk about for the fashion industry, which are the easiest one. I have found, first of all, it's going to depend on what product you're doing. Right. But if you want to do bag products, for example, leather bags, then it's going to be somewhere like, let's say, Ethiopia or Kenya, where the leather quality is very good. This does not mean that Zimbabwe, South Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, I don't know, wherever else cannot do it. That doesn't mean that. is where they have the supply chain, because you don't want them to have to be shipping things in. You don't want them to have to have any of that process in place. Like somebody said, yeah, the whole ecosystem. If your supply chain is there, then that's going to really be supportive of you doing what you need to do. So countries, like key countries at the moment, which is on a lot of people's radars, are of course like Ghana, and they're a bit higher up in the ease of doing business lists. Places like Ethiopia, where there's a lot of large scale manufacturing going on. There's a few challenges around that. It's a challenging one because there's a lot of backlash coming back from that as well. But they are kind of like all eyes on Ethiopia, as unfortunately, I think many are seeing it as the next Bangladesh, which we don't really want to happen at all, not at all.
Right.
But that's kind of high on the list. Then you've got where else? You've got like Kenya, of course, is also very good. But I found that right now Nigeria is really pushing a major Made in Nigeria story, which is not just a campaign, but you're seeing more and more manufacturing units coming forth. They're really pushing their game in that, and they want to show up as a definite go-to place to manufacturing. So I think those are really good countries. And then you've got your main ones like Morocco, Madagascar, Mauritius, Tunisia, Egypt, where they're like the countries that have already been exporting quite in large scale to like the US and so forth. So there's a variety now. There's a variety, but it's going to depend on what you're producing, which I can help you with.
Now, we always hear a lot of controversy about African prints, wax prints. There's a lot of controversial conversation about whether it's really authentically African or not. A lot of people may not be aware, or you may know, that a lot of African wax prints are not even made in Africa. Many of them are made in Asia, or they're made in Europe, in Holland. Holland is a big one. Holland is one of the biggest as far as manufacturing and selling to African countries of the African wax print. And historically, a lot of African countries, the people would say that they prefer the Dutch wax prints over some of the other ones. So what would you say when someone says it's not really African, because some of them are not even made in Africa, they're made outside and then brought into the continent and sold to Africans, and Africans have embraced it as a part of their culture, when the origins of it are kind of blurry as far as if it's really African or not?
Yeah, this is a challenging one for me. I mean, I do like wax prints. I mean, I'm wearing some like stretch Ankara at the moment. But I love prints. I love color. I like a little bit of energy from the fabrics. That's what drew me to Africa in the beginning, was the textiles, but the handmade textiles even more. So I'm going to say that the reality is, in my opinion, it's not African. In my opinion, wax print is not African. And I do say that, and I know that I'll probably get a lot of shutting down and people, going against what I'm saying because they don't agree. And that's fair enough. We all have our opinions. I don't believe it is African. I believe that there are factories on the ground in Africa that do wax print, but the history of it, as we all know, we've heard it so many times, goes back to, the Dutch salesman, and it's originated in Indonesia. And that's kind of like the origins of it. But it's been adopted by Africa. Now, some people are concerned because of the colonialism background associated with the wax print story. And some are saying that, but if Africa's adopting it, then let Africa have it. And I'm like, well, I'm not the person to say they should or shouldn't. I'm just saying my personal opinion. My thing is, if we can either create more production hubs for the wax print in Africa, owned by Africans, employing Africans, that's going to be a great step forward. And even better, if we can be increasing the production of locally made textiles of all types, of all the hand-woven cloths, your kentes, your danfani, your kuba, your all the different handmade textiles that you find across the continent, the batiks especially, the adire, eshoke, all of these, that's going to be keeping traditions alive. And I'm really about preservation of that, because that for me is true Africa and African heritage, African culture. And many designers are now exploring that, and like maquillots and Laduma of Makosa. They're exploring what is a heritage textile and the cultural heritage, and combining that in contemporary fashion and presenting that in a fresh way to highlight their history, highlight their stories, and present their stories in modern ways or new contemporary ways. So I would say the wax print story is going to be there. People will debate it until the end of time. I think the truth is that heritage is the origin is not Africa, but Africa has adopted it. So, and Africans are making it look good. They really do make it look good. So I'm like, go do your thing, African man. You're rising and you've arisen and you're just taking over again. So just do you.
Yeah, Africa has definitely adopted it. There aren't other places that have claimed it, even though, like you said, it has a mixture of Indonesia and Europe mixed in it in the origins, but people from those places don't associate with it. It's Africans that associate with it, and anyone else who sees it automatically thinks African. They don't think anything else. So it's inherently become African over the centuries. Like I think it's like over 100 years. So
Yeah.
it's inherently become African. Yeah. So
I think it's a good way in though, because many people will explore that first and then they will get highlighted about other textiles. So for some, it's a natural progression that you look at the wax print. It's probably one of my first, when I was looking at African fabrics, one of the first steps I took in. Actually, then it was a lot about the lace story. Remember with the Nigerians, they used to, wear in the era and but they would wear a lot of the lace, the Austrian lace and the Sweden and the Swiss lace. And that's not Nigerian, so to speak, but they adopted it into their culture and it's become part of their traditional wear. But I know now they're doing a lot more with their adire and their astrakhan and a lot of this now, and that's become even more popular on top of the wax print.
So we have someone in the comments who's asking how they can contact you. So if you can tell us which email, because I don't want to give your personal one, because I have your personal one. So if there's a best email they can reach you at.
Yeah, that would be the info@africafashionguide.com.
Okay. All right.
And even more Instagram DMs. People slide in there all the time, Africa Fashion Guide. So feel free. We can talk. Happy to talk.
So that's the email on the screen, info@africafashionguide.com. You can reach out to her. You can, as she said, go to Instagram, which is @AfricaFashionGuide. Slide into her DMs there and she'll respond. You can get extra information about Africa Fashion Guide on the website. You have blog posts that you put on there too about relevant fashion news that comes up from time to time. And then you spoke about the Fashion Africa Business Academy.com that people can sign up. And then there was the Fashion Africa Trade Expo that they can go to. There was also the community. What was the name of the community again?
Yeah, that's the membership club, which is the Fashion Africa membership club, and that's found in the Business Academy. So all the training and everything is in there, yeah.
Okay, all right. So that's the Fashion Africa membership club, which would come when they join the academy, the Business Academy.
Yeah, they can choose that option. Yeah.
Okay, great. You also have a YouTube channel that people can follow as well, because you do some live streams. You do have some teaser information. So go to Africa Fashion Guide on YouTube. You can follow her there. She does have some great information that she shares on her YouTube channel as well. And you can learn the process of starting your own business. She gives some great ideas on things you can get started. And it's really exciting when I watch. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, I didn't think of that. Oh, wow, that's interesting. So you can definitely learn a lot from her when you follow her. She should be having way more followers than she does. There's so many people who are doing Africa fashion. You should be following her on YouTube to get more. So subscribe to her YouTube channel so you can get more information about what she's doing and what you can do when you're starting your African fashion business as well. And then for those of you who are joining who didn't hear before, we had mentioned her book, Fashion Africa, that you can get on Amazon. Has a lot of go-to information in there that can certainly help you. The website is Africa Fashion Guide. You can check it out and get lots of up-to-date news and information. There's blog posts and resources, manufacturing information on the site as well. Now, Jacqueline, with manufacturing, you mentioned Ethiopia being a place that people are looking to as the next, like Bangladesh, which, as you said, we don't necessarily want it to get to there because there's a lot of unfair practices that happen in Bangladesh. But Ethiopia is being looked at as a place for manufacturing. Do you think that there's an opportunity for people to come and say that they want to start their own manufacturing in an African country rather than waiting and looking to see who has it?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. If you know how many times I've been propositioned with available factories from Tanzania to Uganda to Ghana, you know, there's opportunities to buy factories and get it set up. You do have to do your due diligence because each country has their clauses around setting up a business in those countries. For example, somewhere like Ghana, if I was coming to set a business up, I have to be able to bring so much money or collaborate with somebody. Let's say me and Ivy were starting the business and she's Ghanaian citizen and I'm not. I'll still need to bring, I think it's around $200,000 or something like that to set up business in Ghana as a non-Ghanaian. So you do have to look at the clauses when you're doing something there on the ground.
Yeah.
I know the British and the UK and Ghana have now, signed some agreements, and they're going to be doing more trade between the countries. So there's some good opportunities happening here. I'm hoping that they reduce the duties because that would be really, really good for us here in the UK. But you do need to do your due diligence with those countries. But there is also ways that maybe you can be supporting a business that's already existing, and then you're shipping with them, and you're giving them more customers and so forth. Maybe you have to look at how you can work that out, but definitely do your due diligence in those countries to make sure that it is somewhere that you can go and set up. But yeah, I get so many propositions. There's so much opportunities. People doing workshops and large scale factories, small. The opportunity is growing. If you get in there, don't lose your seat at the table. Just jump on board, but remember your why, so that you're not just going in there to follow fashion or see what everybody else is doing. Do it because you have the right reasons.
I love that you started off in the beginning. You said, and you're saying it again, to do it because of your why. Because a lot of people don't have a why. They're just jumping on to certain trends that they see maybe working for somebody, but it may not work for them because that's not their purpose. That's not their why. And if that's not the case for you, you're going to get into something, and then before you know it, you're going to be overwhelmed because you realize that this wasn't meant for you. So exactly. You have to love what you're doing and know that you have a purpose in doing it.
Exactly. Do what you love and love what you do, even when those challenges come. Because I've seen over the last, since 2009, I started to get into the industry. There's been so many platforms, so many online shops, so many designers and brands and so forth around the African fashion network, even setting up their own fashion shows and things like this, who I've noticed. But over the years, they have closed down. I think some stopped prematurely. I think some maybe saw, because it wasn't easy in the beginning. People didn't really want to know. Now it's very popular with the year of return and beyond the return, with, a lot of things happening. Celebrities coming to, American celebrities coming, African American celebrities coming to Africa. That's really helped with the music industry, with things like Black Parade and Beyonce and everybody else. I think that's really has helped to support. But I also think Africa's got a lot of its own to offer when it comes to its tourism, its beaches, its food, its music, its culture, its fashion, its people, its heritage, amongst all the riches that the land has to offer. There's a lot. So yeah, make sure that your why is right, so you don't just come and be just another one coming in, trying it and then leaving because you're bored or it's tough. Focus on what your real reason why you're there, and go in for the long term. I'm here for the long term. 10 years in, I ain't going nowhere.
Now, I have a question about luxury, because when we think about luxury fashion in the fashion industry, people always think about, they'll think of Versace, Louis Vuitton, they'll think of Chanel, they'll think of these European brands, out of Italy, out of France, out of Spain. that have been around for, some of them over 100 years, some of these brands, these designer labels. And the whole world looks at some of these brands as luxury or couture. But people don't often think of that when they think of African fashion. Do you see any opportunity for people to dive into luxury when it comes to African fashion? And if so, how would they go about doing it and changing people's mind into seeing African fashion as potentially luxury?
I think it's going down to, first of all, it's mindsets around it, isn't it? It's how people have perceived it. Italy's, the place of amazing luxurious craft, and the shoes and the bags and all of this suits and so forth is supposed to be seen as high up. And they've positioned themselves, they've had very good publicists to position Italy as that luxury country. And so African countries are seen in different ways, maybe a bit more crafty, a bit more like amongst the crafts, I mean. And I see so many designers. Even one of my friends, I have to shout her out, who's recently featured in the Ethical Fashion Initiative Accelerator. Her name's Margot Wong, and I've been seeing her for years in Burundi, a country that people probably are like, where is Burundi? Where is that? They've never known it, they've never heard of, never spoken about it. But this country where it's not really on the radar for many people, and she moved there many years ago. So we met in the UK. She moved there many years ago, and she's been making jewelry with things like cow horn and metal, like working with craft specialists, skilled people to make these beautiful, beautiful jewelry pieces. And now, the Ethical Fashion Initiative have come on board. They've spotted her and able to position her, but she's now showcasing in places like Italy and the US and Europe. And she's been hustling for years doing this. Now her product for me is luxury. I think if you're going to need to tell the stories, people are going to think what they think, but you need to make sure that your brand, your branding, your messaging, your content, your the work that you do is at a particular position of how you want it to be seen. Like I always say to people, when it comes to, I call it like my 4 Ps of marketing. And the number one is the positioning, as well as your pricing, your product, and your promotion. The positioning is going to be really key. You have to determine how you want people to see you. And I feel that Margot Wong has been an example of that. Even Laduma keeps talking about him. He's just an amazing, amazing talent, a really lovely person. But it's knitwear. But he has been so clear about his brand and the heritage and positioning as a luxury brand. It's not cheap, acrylic polyester knitwear. It's locally sourced from South Africa and those regions, and it's made locally. And he's positioning it as a luxury knitwear brand. You are paying for those products as much as they deserve, and even then some. So yeah, you have to know how you want to be positioned, how you want to be seen.
So some of the people who are wanting to do African fashion are not necessarily people outside of Africa, because I know we always know there's a lot of diasporans who are outside and they want to come to Africa and do business, but there's actually Africans on the continent who want to do business as well, and they don't know what to do. What's some of the advice that you have for people who are local as to how they can start their business?
I encourage them to, I mean, there's, like I said, there's some associations, like in Kenya, there's the Kenya Association of Manufacturing, Ghana has its own, Nigeria has its own, and those are really good organizations to get connected with, and some of the trade associations as well. And they will be able to, like, if you're looking for a manufacturer, they can connect you with the manufacturer. So you may be a designer, maybe you want to set up something. I say, if you really want to do it seriously, go to those places to be able to find out who you can be working with. So the challenge is that the fashion school issue is not there. Somebody did mention about what was it about the supply chain management systems, and that we need expertise in this area. This is one of the challenges, and I know people like Dr. Erica that I interviewed recently from my YouTube channel, and Frederica Broxworth is also doing things. She's based in the UK, but she's I think she's coming out to Ghana soon, so you definitely need to meet with her, Ivy, if you haven't yet. And they want to change the kind of like the narrative around the education of fashion in Africa, and highlighting more things to people, and putting in places things that people can understand, supply chain management, about production, and serving the countries on the continent in this best way. But yeah, don't just go to your friends, whatever. Go to those organizations and speak with them. But do your due diligence, get your research on, see what the market's offering, what is available for you. Don't expect to do something that they do in your country, because you like it. Make sure it's available for you to make it easier. Make it as simple as possible for you to start, because it does get challenging over time.
Yeah. So this question here was about challenges of setting a factory, capital, regulations, demand.
Yes.
You touched a little bit on that, but you can go a little bit more.
Yeah, the main one was I was mentioning was being an international person setting up a factory in another country, and just the legal sides of it. But even with, let's just put that aside. You need to make sure that you are having, first of all, the location. If it's in a region called an EPZ, or export processing zone, that's going to help you when it comes to shipping, because it makes things, you get like duty-free status, and it makes the exporting easier for you. And it's kind of like government ground. So that's going to help if you want to set up, try to do it in an EPZ. It will make things so much easier, especially if you need to import fabrics as well. So just look into that. The machinery, you need to make sure that you have machinery for the type of products that you're going to be expertise in. You want to make dresses like this? Do you have machinery with 4-thread, 3-thread, overlockers, sergers, and all sorts of machines that can do this kind of finishing for this kind of product? Or will you just be doing woven products? Will you be doing leather bags? You need to have specific machinery for all those products, plus the skills and expertise. What I've seen people do, so I've interviewed somebody called Abisade. Her factory is called Heritage in Nigeria, Heritage Apparel in Nigeria, and she did this. She set up a factory from being a lawyer internationally, living abroad in UK and US. She moved back to Nigeria and set up this factory, and she invited, I think it was from Sri Lanka and Indian factory owners to come and help to train up her staff. So she employs local people, but she also got expert support to come in and train them, so that they will understand the different type of manufacturing. Is it lean manufacturing? Is it are they going to be working with assembly lines? Or how is it going to be set up? What's your stitch per minute? What's your capacity? What's your capability? Can you keep the consistency of quality? All of these questions are going to be so important. So you could be like someone like Soko Kenya, started by it was already established in Kenya, but then Joe Anna Maiden came on board when there was about maybe 4 people working for it, and then she developed it. And they started small, and now they developed it. Now they've been supported by companies like ASOS here in the UK. So it's a long journey, but again, as I mentioned earlier, the quote I put on my Instagram is doing manufacturing and working with Africa for fashion is you have to make a decision and a commitment to do that. You have to be decisive that this is what I want to do, and I'm committed for the long haul, because there's going to be things that are going to come up. There will be. I can guarantee that. There's going to be things.
What are some of the challenges that people should be aware of when they're doing business in an African country?
Okay, I remember I did some research on this for part of my master's. When I did my ethical fashion master's, I came to Ghana with a company called Karana that was part of AGOA. And I was part of the program, and I was interviewing some Ghanaian companies, and the main challenges that were coming up that I was asking them and they were filling me in was skill set was a big challenge. So you do have to be committed to train people. If they don't always exist, you can do programs for that. And skill set, look, is it truancy is the right word? I would say people don't show up for work. So you'd have a lot of like for school, isn't it? When people don't show up for work, and so you're missing people working. You're expecting 10 people, 20 people, and only 5 turn up. So you can't do the production times that you were expecting. Then you've got things like dumsar, or electricity challenges. To keep that going, if you need to then get a generator, you have to afford to do that. That's going to be extra expense. If you have machine running electricity, and the skill to go, what people want for the international market. Because are you going to be doing pattern cutting? Are you going to be a cut, make a trim? Are you going to be doing full production services? And then things like the shipping. to understand how that process works, to be able to export. That is going to add on the cost, and you have to get your pricing right so that you are making money, because people are going to try to get you down as cheaply as they can. They really are. Because remember, many people will be looking at what you're doing and looking at what's done in Asia and be like, oh, but I can make a t-shirt for like $1 or $2. So why can't I do it in Africa? Like, is the cotton available locally? Are they importing it back from after it's been exported? That means the cost is more. They've got their own import charges, and then they're going to be making it. And it's not cheap to make in Africa. People think Africa is cheap. It's not cheap. You have to pay people what they're worth. They do that in other Asian countries because they've got a supply chain set up. Things are still challenging in African countries. So you have to pay the money or do it elsewhere if you need to do that. So people are going to have these expectations. You need to make sure that the costings are going to be right for you to grow that business and scale it so you can keep it going for the long term. Again, long-term thinking.
Yes, long-term thinking. Now, there's a lot of press that happens where, and this could become a touchy subject for some people, but there are a lot of people who are non-African descent that come into African countries and do business and have successful multi-million dollar businesses, but then somebody who is of African descent comes and does a similar business, but they don't do well. They don't get as much publicity or press. So, you know, a white Canadian lady could come and start a business doing fair trade, selling something from Africa, and a Black Canadian could come selling fair trade, doing business from Africa, but the white lady will have more publicity from mainstream media about what she's doing than the Black business person may have. It's a reality. So what do people of African descent need to do if they want their product to be seen more, if they want to get more of the publicity that they need? Because there's a lot of people doing some great things who are not getting the publicity. They're not getting the profiles. They're not being featured in, you know, in Glamour magazine or whatever it may be. It's very rare that they are. In comparison, what are some of the things they can do as a brand to help them stand out so they can be noticed, if that's possible?
You know what? I think hearing you say that in the comparison between the white Canadian and the Black Canadian, I also need to ask as well, for some of the challenges that I've seen is even within our own community. So there are some major platforms that because first of all, are we selling? Are we trying to sell to the whole world, or are we selling to our own communities? Is a big question. So if I'm selling to the Black communities, are the Black community watching? Are you supporting? Are you going to like my YouTube channel? Are you going to decide to work with me over somebody who doesn't look like me? So these are decisions that sometimes, you know, it's our own community that is, and people are not going to like me saying this, but sometimes it is our own community. Some of the platforms out there, I'm not going to name names, but there's many platforms, large media platforms, who could be supporting more the brands. You know, as someone who's a pioneer doing it for a long time, I've reached out to many of these brands, these media companies, and you just get silenced, you know. And then unfortunately I have got more support from some of the white-owned media and brands, which is a shame sometimes. It actually hurts because I want to be saying that, yes, I was supported by this Black media. I was supported by, you know, the Black community. Not saying the product is just for Black people, it's for all. But, you know, it would be great to have that as well. Now, if you are, you know, a Black-owned business doing that, I think, you know, you have to understand the importance of content and marketing and media. And I think, you know, Ivy's, you know, amazing at that. Absolutely amazing at that. And right now, what do they say? There's a saying that, you know, facts tell, stories sell. So my company does a lot with the fact telling. Yeah, I've reached out to him as well. I'm still waiting. If you're watching, Woody, I'm waiting for you, my friend. I love what he's doing, because what he's doing is really showcasing Africa. People need to see, and
Yeah.
waiting for more of this. So I'm seeing a rise. I think this is the season for it. This really is the season. Get on, start your YouTube channel. You know, be that place. You know, I've been pioneering a lot, so sometimes I've been coming ahead of things happening. So yeah, you may have to pay for publicity. I've had to pay for some press, a lot of press, and some I just get organic. I don't even know, they just showcase. But you know, facts tell, stories sell. So it is a lot about storytelling, and people do want to know more. They want to be informed. So that's going to be really important.
Mm-hmm.
Collaborations as well, really important. So you see even a lot of the retail brands like H&M and with the designers collaboration, Debenhams used to do that back in the UK, and some of the bigger brands are now doing that with designers as well. Even African brands, I see West Elm doing a lot with designers, and the Bloomingdale's have done things. There's been a lot now of collaborations, and that's we have to come to them, know what is their agenda. I've had a challenging thing that I've had is where I've gone to a magazine and proposed what I need to propose, and they love the story, but they said because we're doing something which is an African business story this month, we won't be able to do your one for like 6 months. And I'm like, what's the problem of doing one this month and one next month? But they see it as a problem or maybe too much. So you have to know what is their agenda. Maybe there's another angle you can come through that fits their agenda but gets you a way in. So it's a challenging game. Many you might have to pay for. That's the reality. Um, and many that you can, reach out to other people, maybe like the Warren Myers, maybe like the Ivies, and many of these other YouTubers now, and that will get you in front of bigger people, because I think now it's all about the sharing economy. These big media they're big and they're important, but I think people like the Ivies, they're even more important these days, because they're reaching out to huge markets of people that are your future customers.
Yes, definitely, definitely. Um, Someone asked to include your information on the screen. That's Miss Angie Pie. I have put it on the email. I'll put it back up there. So first of all, Instagram is Africa Fashion Guide, to follow her on Instagram. The website is africafashionguide.com. And you can send her an email directly at info@africafashionguide.com to send her an email if you have any questions that you have, or you want to find out about, signing up for some of her coaching sessions, to join the business academy she talked about, which is the fashionbusinessacademy.com. You can get information about that from her as well, about joining. I think that it would be well worth your time to get in contact with her, because she definitely would be helpful for anything you're doing when it comes to African fashion on the continent, because she's been doing this over a decade. And as I said, I first met her, it was 2012 when I first met her. And she just was so interesting and so dynamic. And she did a presentation about ethical fashion at Ghana Fashion and Design Week. She talked about her book. And I was like, wow, this woman has some really interesting things that she's sharing. And I'm glad that I've kept in touch and kept following. She's done some really good things. And I know of people who have worked with you, who have gone on to have successful businesses after doing like one of your sourcing trips. So it's really, really good to get in contact with her if you're looking to start your own African fashion business. And as she said, you have to be in it for the long haul. You have to be in it for the long haul, and you have to know your why. If you don't know your why, it is not going to work. It is not going to work. So we have a comment here saying product placement is the name of the game. Most definitely. A lot of people don't understand the value of product placement when it comes to, because I know people who will send stuff to somebody who's high profile for free because they want them to wear it, tag them, and then that gives them a sense of a little bit of publicity. So that's, one way of placing your products. What other ways can people show their products, Jacqueline?
I mean, yeah, sending to influencers and so forth is going to be important, but you just need to make sure that they are going to be in front of your target market, because otherwise it's just sending them things for the sake of it. But I think there's a lot of trades at the moment. They're more online, but trade shows are really important as well, because you're getting in front of the buyers directly. You know they're in there ready to buy. So if you're making product, well, that's what I did in the beginning. I went to a lot of trade shows to meet manufacturers, to meet buyers, to listen to what's going on. So I think that's going to be really important. And then social media is going to be your huge one. So yeah, there's so many aspects now. You've got YouTube to get in front, unboxing videos on YouTube. if you send it to a YouTuber to do an unboxing, that's really going to show people what your product's all about. And obviously, any type of video kind of product, so using your reels on Instagram or TikTok, you know, is just crazy busy. And right now, Clubhouse is a game changer. Yes, if you like to talk, it's going to be great, but because you're going to connect and build a new market of people, and you can show your expertise, you can tell those stories, you can bring people together. So it's all bringing in new communities together. So I think those are going to be really helpful.
Clubhouse is great. I've heard so many great things about it, but it's only limited to those who have iPhones. Oh, yeah. I'm not on it because I don't have an iPhone. I have Android. Yeah, I've been invited, and I went to click the invite to go into Clubhouse, and then I got the pop-up. It was only for Apple. But yeah, I've heard a lot of great stories. So if anybody is on the Apple iOS, you should definitely look into getting onto Clubhouse, because there are some great conversations that happen in so many different industries. And I know people who've gotten contracts, people who've booked gigs, people who have sold merchandise, people who have gotten new jobs from Clubhouse conversation. So if you're able to access it, it's a great opportunity to do so. Now, this comment says, most Africans don't do market research before launching a product or service, hence they cannot have a successful outreach. You must target your product or service to a particular niche. Thank you, PB, for your comment. This is true, and I want to tell a quick story. I was at an event for work back in December, and there was a young lady who was selling a product, and I bought one of her items, and I wanted to buy a few, but I wanted to test it first. So I bought one, and then when she put it in the bag, it was a plain paper bag. There was no brand on it, no nothing, no phone number. And I said, how am I supposed to get in touch with you if I like it and I want to call again? Then she was like, oh. And I was like, how are you getting repeat customers? This is what you do every time you go places. So every time she goes places, she just rents a table, she lays her stuff out on the table, and she sells it, and then she's happy she sold it. But it's like, but if you sell it, you want to make sure people come back to you when they want it again. But if I didn't ask you, I would go home and have no way to reach you again. And so she ended up writing it down on a piece of paper. And I told her, you need to invest in printing business cards or printing something on your paper bags so people have something to be able to, you know, reach out to you to get the product again. And this is a common thing. I've seen a lot of festivals and events in Ghana specifically where people are selling product, but they have no contact information, no branding for people to be able to come back and buy from you, you know. So yeah.
I was gonna add to that even one of the great things, opportunities with Africa, is the fact that there's for lack of a better word, there's lots of problems that need solutions. So let's just say, for example, something like Uber maybe solve some of the problems of travel, getting around. So you don't have to get on, do the buses. You can now, go by Uber and get places to get to, But what things about like transporting of your products, getting things to people? People still want things fast. There may be a lot of diaspora moving back to African countries, and they may want to get their products as fast as they got in the UK and Europe, or the US. So maybe that's a problem that you can solve. Delivery companies. It could be. I mean, I could go on and on. There's so many things that are opportunities. If you can see, especially like rubbish problems, that could be a large opportunity. Recycling, upcycling. You can make money from a lot of these things that you're doing. And I think if you can think out of the box, that's really going to help. Really, really going to help. And I had a big thing I wanted to do with secondhand clothing, about solutions to get rid of that or upcycling that, because that's a huge, huge problem. Huge problem. Yeah, so I just wanted to add that.
Okay. Let's see with the more comments. Jacqueline, don't give up on contacting Maya. Try to catch him on his live.
I will.
If you want, I mean, I can connect you to him if you wanted to connect to him, but we can talk about that later. Rochelle, helping other brands, their products is another opportunity as well. Thank you for your comment.
Yes.
And another comment from Rochelle. How do I get more subscribers on my YouTube? Rochelle, it is a work in progress when it comes to YouTube. That's a whole other conversation. But Rochelle, I'm going to give you a tip. I know this is not the African fashion conversation, but Rochelle, you should follow some of the channels that give tips on how to have a better YouTube channel and growth. There's a lot of channels that give a lot of great information that you can learn from. It is one step at a time, one day at a time, and consistency is the key, and understanding your analytics is the key. So that's a whole other conversation. But I'll tell you, Rochelle, check out Video Influencers. It's a YouTube channel, Video Influencers. They give a lot of great tips. So I hope that helps you. All right. So we've been talking for over an hour.
Great.
And yeah, it's been a really great conversation talking about African fashion, starting your African fashion business, and sourcing. So if anybody has any final questions or comments, please put them in the comment section. I'm going to wrap up and let Jacqueline go on with the rest of her day. I also have a couple of things that I need to jump on today as well. So I'll put some of the information on the screen as a review, as those of you watching are giving your last thoughts of if you want to ask any questions. You can find Jacqueline on Africa Fashion Guide on Instagram. And you can find her website, which is africafashionguide.com. And you can send her an email at info@africafashionguide.com to get information from her. And let's see, Rochelle, thank you for that. You're welcome. You are welcome. Thank you so much, everybody who has been online today. Thank you so much for taking the time on a Saturday. I know for some of you it's early. It is mid-afternoon in Ghana. Sometimes it's not always the easiest trying to coordinate timing for the live streams because I'm working with my schedule as well as the schedule of the guest who has, you know, their own schedule. And then I'm trying to balance with time zones. So I understand that for some people it may have been really early in the morning. For some people it may have been really late because I have followers in the US, I have followers in Australia. So it's like there's so many different time zones to consider that sometimes it's a challenge to get them all. But the great thing is that the video will be on replay. You can watch it again later on. If you've missed it live, you can always watch it again and put your comments in the comment section. I always go through the comments and I'll respond. If it's something that's directed towards Jacqueline, I can make sure that she knows. And or you can send it to her directly by email. So I'll remind you again, her email is info@africafashionguide.com. I appreciate your time today, Jacqueline. Is there anything that you want to say to wrap up?
Yes, I do. Firstly, thank you. You are a boss. You know I love you and all you're doing.
Love you too.
And thank you, Blind Guy, his wife, their life, for your comments and accolades. I appreciate you too. Thank you so much. I'm just going to end to say that the fashion industry is an industry that can give a lot, in the sense that it can employ a lot of people. A high quantity of the people employed are women, and it's Women's Month at the time of this recording. So just wanted to remember that. Happy Independence Day, Ghana, as well.
Oh,
and,
yes.
We won't forget that. But yeah, so it does employ a lot of women, and women often are leading the households in the sense of supporting. So when you are producing fashion, you're working with communities and women, you can also be supporting the whole family and supporting the whole community. The fashion industry is worth like $2.4 trillion globally. That's US dollars. That's a huge quantity. Africa's worth about 31 billion collectively in all the countries. So it's got a way to go, but you can be a huge part of it. And as I always say, that trade is the tool. If you want to see change in Africa, trade is a tool and fashion is a vehicle. I say the vehicle, but it is a vehicle to see change in Africa. So just step out, just decide to do something, be decisive, be committed to do it as well. And just always remember your why and think that I'm doing this for the long term. Okay? Thank you.
Perfect. I love that. Be decisive, be committed, and think of your why because it's for the long term. Thank you so much, Jacqueline, today. And thank all of you for watching today as we've been talking with Jacqueline from Africa Fashion Guide. And she's talking about how to start your own fashion business, African fashion business. Follow her on Instagram at Africa Fashion Guide. Her website is africafashionguide.com.
Okay, I think her internet has gone, but I want to say thank you again, and you can see the channel there, and I really appreciate
Just
it.
as I'm wrapping up, the internet decides
Thank you.
to give it one
Always,
last hurrah.
always. That'll be one of those bloopers you can put in another video, all the different bloopers.
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'll wrap up right now before I get lost again. Thank you so much. Have yourself
Thank
a fantastic day,
you.
everyone.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thanks again. Bye.
Bye.